Good morning. Welcome to Math Time. We are on day 24. Today is Monday, May the 4th, and we are talking about time again this week. You guys have been learning to read time, tell time on an analog clock, which has the hour and the minute hands. A lot of this is a review because we covered this in school. If you guys remember back in school, we made a clock very similar to the ones that was in your packet. So for the activity today for math, you're going to need this clock. Again, you're going to need to get out this clock. You should have hopefully gotten your packets by now and had this clock with the hands, okay? Or you could make your own clock if you wanted to make your own clock somehow. Please remember when you're making your analog clock, okay, your hour hand is shorter than the minute hand. That's how we can tell the difference between the hands on a clock. Okay, the hour hand is shorter, the minute hand is longer. So you should have this packet, guys. I challenged you last week to also look around your house for analog clocks. I showed you several different analog clocks that I have at my house. I also went to school last week and picked up this clock from our classroom. So you may remember us learning on this clock. And remember, with this clock here, I have two different colored hands, but I also know by the shorter, right? The shorter hand is the hour hand, the longer hand is the minute hand. Because if you notice, these two hands are not the same size. When I put them right next to each other, I can see one of them is shorter. So the shorter hand always points, is telling us the hour. So as I tick around this clock, okay, let's see what time it is right there, okay? The short hand is pointing to the 5. The blue hand is pointing to the 12, okay? We have to remember that when the minute hand is up at 12, that's the o'clock, right? That means there's actually 0 minutes at that point, okay? That is on the hour. That is 5 o'clock, okay? As I tick around the clock, okay, each of these numbers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, leading up to the half hour mark, these are 5-minute increments, okay? So I tick around the clock and we were at 5 o'clock a while ago. Now, the hour hand is in between the 5 and the 6, okay? And the minute hand is pointing at the 6. This is telling me that it's 5:30. Remember, the halfway mark on a clock is down here at the 6. If this is the hour, I'm halfway around the clock right here at the 6, okay? So this is telling me that it's 30 minutes past the hour. It's now 5:30. When I am reading to the half hour, I have to remember that when I look here and my hour hand is between the 5 and the 6, that I go back and read it as 5:30, right? I don't go ahead and say my hour is now 6:30, okay? Because we were at the 5 o'clock hour. I'm now halfway between the 5 and the 6, but it reads as 5:30, okay? So let's look at how I would take this time that's on my clock right now of 5:30 and how I would write it as a digital time, okay? So I'm going to draw a box like a digital clock. This would be the clocks that like you see, in the car, in your car. I know that page is not, hold on, let me get a better page because you were seeing through the other side. In your car, on the stove in my kitchen, it's that way. It's used as a digital clock. So I'm going to draw again my box. And the hour goes first. So it was 5:30, right? So the 5 goes first. And that's my hour. I'm going to write something on here that will help you guys out. Hour. And then my minutes is the second part of the number that I write. So when I'm taking this and I'm converting it from an analog time of 5:30 to writing it in a digital form, okay, the first number that I write is the hour, okay? I wrote hour down there in red as a reminder. Then I have to separate it. What goes in the middle on a digital clock, it looks like two dots. It's called a colon. All right, that separates the hour from the minutes. Okay, so you always have to put something that separates it. Okay, so 5 dot dot. I'm gonna add the colons here. Anytime you do a digital clock, write it in a digital form, you have to show me that. 5 dot dot, that separates hour from minutes. And now my minutes, it was 5:30, right? So I'm going to write 30. 5:30. That's the digital time. This again is the analog time showing 5:30. This is showing it in a digital format. This is the digital. Got to keep it away from my face so you guys can hear me. So that is your task today, friends. That is your task. You are going to show the times to the half hour using your clock. Hopefully you've got the packet and you've used it that way. If not, you can make up a clock very easily yourself. And I also want to show you a quick, easy way to draw the face of a clock, okay? Because you're going to need to draw the clocks and show me in your journal, show the time on an analog clock, and then you're going to need to show it on a digital clock. So I wanted to show you a quick, easy way to draw a clock because I know sometimes it can be hard spacing your numbers out, okay, the right way. So if you make your circle for a clock face, okay, and I made mine big, yours doesn't have to be this big because you're going to have to do several of them for your in your journal. So it doesn't have to be this big at all. But I made a big one so you can see it easily. I'm going to start out by just putting the 12 and the 6 on my clock. Okay, the 12 is up at the top. The 6 is right below it. Okay, they are opposite each other. 12 and 6. Okay, easy to make. It's like I divided my clock in half up and down, and those are right across from each other. Okay, I made it pretty simple for myself. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the 9 and the 3 on my clock. Okay, so you can look at your clock. You've got your analog clock sitting next to you. Hopefully you can look at that and look at where they are. They are right across from each other. So the 9 and the 3 I want to put on my clock. I'm going to show you the place that I put them. Okay, makes it easier to draw your clock. Now I've got 4 of my numbers added to my clock. Now all I have to do is go back in and fill in the missing pieces. So after I would have a 1 and a 2 that need to go here, and then a 4 and a 5 after the 3. So this is just a quick, easy way. Hopefully it makes spacing the numbers out on a clock a little easier for you. It would look something like that. Hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for you, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and finish drawing the rest of my numbers. And then when I get done, I'm going to put a dot in the middle of my clock because that's where my hands would be at, right? So, okay. So for your homework tonight or class work, daily work today, I guess I should say, you are going to do something very similar to that. You need to show me on your clock, you would need to show the time 2:30, 4:30, 9:30, and 6:30. You're going to make it on your analog clock that you've got there in person with you. Then you're going to draw it in your writing, in your journal, in your math journal. You're going to draw an analog clock and show me the time. Then next to the analog clock, I want you to write it like a digital time, okay? So that's why I showed you all that information today. So the first one, guys, I'm going to do with you, okay? So the first one should be 2:30. So I have my clock. If you want to grab your clock and do this with me, you can. You can pause this video and go get your clock if you would like. I am taking mine around here. And I'm going to start out by making the time 2:30 on my analog clock. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is do that. Well, I decided I'm going to start at 2 o'clock. Okay, and like I said, if you wanted to go get your clock, guys, and participate with me, that would be great. So I'm going to tick around here. Tick, tick, tick. This is my minute hand moving. right? And go down to here, the halfway point, okay? That is 2:30. That's what 2:30 looks like on an analog clock, okay? So this is the first one. We're doing this together. There's 2:30 on my analog clock. Now, I'm going to have my analog clock laying next to me, and I'm going to draw an analog clock in my journal, okay? So I've already drawn my analog clock in my journal. You can see there. Next to it, I wrote a little box where I'm showing the time in a digital clock, analog clock, and digital clock. And I've drawn out more analog clocks down my page because I'm going to continue doing that for each of those times. Okay. Remember, if you want, if it helps you out, you can color code your hands on your clock. Mine are blue and red, so my hour hand is red. It's the shorter one. My minute hand is blue. It's a little bit longer. If that helps you, go back and do that. You can do that in your journal, okay? You can also put a little blue and red line on your digital clock to help you. Hour is red, the minutes are blue. I've done it just so we can see it easier. Okay, so try your very best with this. And I've posted some videos last week showing you lots of analog clocks around my house. So today you're taking it. You're gonna write these times, do these times on an analog clock, and then you're gonna write it in a digital clock format as well. Okay. So also you can also make a list of where you have seen analog clocks being used and digital clocks also. So where you see digital clocks, where you see analog clocks, all right? Which I think we've already kind of talked about that a little bit. So have fun with this task, guys, and good luck. Bye.